How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I just wanted to. It's not so much a review as just like different bits of gameplay and stuff. Having a little test out, really, of this new Chevrolet Apache. I won't go through all the options properly, but obviously I'm putting all the best bits on. The top engine, the gearboxes are like the Scout options, the Freeway or the SnowRunner. So I put the Freeway one in for now. There is no raised suspension. There's not a whole lot of choice of tyres, but I think like those muds are pretty cool. They're like big versions of the loaf muds. It's also got the chained, off-road, all-terrain, so it's got all the main basic options. As for the winch, it's got like the Scout winches again, so you can have an autonomous Scout or an advanced Scout. And then as for the frame add-ons, you've got like this pretty big one, or the one that goes in the back of like the pickup thing. As far as these roof racks go, you'll see in a minute, I don't think they hold enough points really. They should hold more. I mean, like I said, this video is not quite a review just yet, because I've been driving it around all night, testing it out, but yeah, I don't want to make a review like when I've only just got the thing myself, so I've just had a night or so driving it around. I will make a review, a proper one, pretty damn soon, but yeah, as it's new and people are probably wondering like, what's it like, what's it, a bit of gameplay of it, I just wanted to show that. If I'm honest, as far as just to get it out of the way, is it worth buying or not, I honestly don't really think so, unless you play the game a hell of a lot and you really like this type of thing. I think it's about £3.29, which, I mean, obviously, yeah, you could buy like a coffee or something that's £3.29, so it depends really. I mean, it's not the end of the world, it's just more out of principle really. I don't think it's worth it. Like, I think it should have either came as part of the season pass, since that's why I assume I mean, this isn't the only game to do this, but I'm not going to defend this game from doing it. But when you buy a season pass, you expect to get everything coming out that season. That's the whole point of it. It's like, saves you getting all the individual microtransactions, so I don't really agree with them selling this. However, I would also say if it was like £1, it would make more sense, but the fact that it's £3.29 and it's alright, it's got its moments here and there, but it's definitely lacking on the power. I think when you put the engine in, it might be B- or B+. Either way, it's not S, and the reason, like, I don't necessarily want every truck to be insanely rapid, but I at least like the option there. Like, say that Warthog that they recently added, with the top engine in, it's S+ power, that thing is like crazy if you want it to be. But I can put lesser engines in if I want to, or a gearbox that's geared lower. But I like the fact that the top end limit is there if I want it. With this, even if you put the top engine and the fastest gearbox in, it's still a little bit sluggish. Looking through all the add-ons and options, basically between both of them, one's got 80 fuel, one's got 120. And then as for the repairs, they're 150 each, and maybe the one in the back of the pickup, because that's not the biggest roof rack or like little repair stockpile, but particularly the actual roof rack, I mean, it's pretty massive. That's definitely what she said. But yeah, that's like, it's getting on for the length of a loaf, and it's only got 150 points on it. It's a little bit the same with like the Tatrin, that's only got 150 on, and I feel like it should be more. As for comparing this to other truck, I mean, Tatrin definitely would walk all over this as far as like off-roading goes. I think quite a few things do. It's kind of similar to the Yar, but there's a few places I'd say it does better than the Yar. I mean, again, I won't go through it all, so it's just a quick little look in the interior. I mean, it looks pretty cool. I do like the look of it. It's like an old school Chevy truck. I didn't even know they made six-wheel versions of these. I'm not sure. Well, when I was reading the description, it was kind of, I mean, it's called a Chevrolet Apache, so it's got like the official Chevrolet name. Yeah, never really seen or heard of them myself, but it does look pretty cool. And I appreciate this thing as standard if it was built in like the 1950s or whatever. Probably wouldn't be that powerful, but we're putting like, there's a 5.2 litre custom engine or whatever. Like, yeah, we can customise the trucks. I want to customise more power in them, so I can go flying along. Like, because this game is just single player, the whole pay to win situation doesn't bother me at all. If you've got a game like Call of Duty, I fully understand and don't agree with doing pay to win stuff, because when I'm directly in competition with another human and that's part of the game, yeah, I don't want there to be a situation where they can just buy something, or even worse, get lucky in a loot box, and now they've got an advantage over me. But in this game, obviously, we're all just essentially playing against ourselves and the terrain, etc. Nice little drift there. I do like it. Doesn't roll very easily, which is nice. It doesn't have any trailers though, and it's not the end of the world because I can use plenty of other stuff. But it's just one of those things. Like if you're going to charge £3.29, this needs to be essentially pay to win. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be insane. Like even if it had a more powerful engine, it's not going to break the game. It's not going to make it more insane than anything else. Especially the fact that they've made it not have any trailers. Is like, why don't you just make it, yeah, a bit of a crazy truck then for flying across the landscape. Like the fact that it's a little bit sluggish as well. And I am definitely being harsher on it because it's purchasable for real money, but I believe that's quite a big big sort of stipulation of how well it should be doing, really. And yeah, again, I don't agree with them going down that route, adding it as extra DLC. Like somebody said, at least if we've got the season pass, we should be able to get it for a like a discount price or something. Again, like £1. I'd live with £1 just for, it's like, fair enough, have your £1. Someone designed it. I'll live with it. But yeah, I mean, again, when they had the Navistar and the Khan Marshall, the Navistar's like £1.69, which is worth it. I would say the Navistar is worth it. The Khan Marshall isn't and wasn't really. It was barely worth it anyway because it handles a bit iffy. But then when they nerfed the fuel as well, it's like it's just not a beneficial truck or scout or whatever to use really in the game. And with this thing, yeah, it's been alright for a little laugh. Like I said, it's had its moments, but it gets bogged down incredibly easy. Like you see when I was driving up there, and that little patch of mud back there does slow down quite a lot of trucks, but the fact that this thing is like a 6-wheeled, that are quite big wheels, particularly for a scout, it should be able to rip through mud and snow a lot better than it does. I thought I was just going to miss that anti-terrorist barricade, ended up smashing both of them. I mean, as far as the damage goes, the suspension's pretty decent, pretty solid. I ended up breaking it later on just to see what it was like when it was lowered, and it took a little bit of effort to break it. I'll say the engine is pretty weak and sensitive. Obviously I've got the top engine in. Maybe it's different with the lesser engines, but there's already just not enough oomph in this thing that I don't even want to entertain the idea of the lower engines. But yeah, I believe it's 100 points with the engine, but certainly if you crash at top speed into a tree, you're going to wipe out probably 3/4 to all of your engine in one hit. Now, he jumps over that barrier pretty nicely. It has got quite low hanging fuel tanks either side. Just quickly, the horn. I mean, Jesus Christ, I've had silent farts that are louder than that. That might even take the cake as one of the worst horns. It's certainly up there. Yeah, jumping over though that barrier, like I said, the fuel tanks have got like a little step on each side. They do sit a little bit low, but at least because it's 6-wheeled, there's a pretty small distance between the front and the middle axle, so it takes quite a bit to get beat. Quite enjoyed that little crash there. Quite like crashes that look realistic, and that was pretty good. Yeah, as for top speed, I mean, it's not rapid, but well, my issue is like going along here is a very nice. I can live with that speed. That's just fine. But it's how quickly it's affected and slowed down by anything other than a road, really, is just... It doesn't make sense for the fact that it is a 6-wheeled vehicle. And I don't even believe power is like the limiting factor in that, because a pickup's going to be like pretty low geared, pretty torquey, all the rest of it. It's not looking for like max horsepower, but it's going to have decent torque. And if you're going to create a vehicle... Squidged it with a dolphin. Yeah, if you're going to create a vehicle like this, would you really go all out and put big chunky wheels on and, you know, 3 axles, 6 wheels and all the rest of it, and then just go, oh, but we'll leave an old 1950s pickup engine in it that's a bit slow? I mean, of course, sending the goddamn horse of a vehicle. Professional to the end. Now they've got that lock-in physics is gone. The loaf just flew straight down, but I mean, didn't even take one bit of damage. And we're good to go. Like I said before, I know most videos tend to end up as a loaf review, a loaf recommendation, but why not? I mean, look at him. He's a goddamn professional. No messing around, few seconds, dolphin flipped. As for the Chevrolet Apache thing, I dragged it out the water with a loaf, It floats, and it really isn't that good in water. Not to say it's not good in water, but it floats pretty damn easily, so you don't have to be that deep in water before it starts lifting all its own weight off the floor and struggling. I mean, just for comparison, I winched Dolphin over with a loaf. I actually think that Dolphin with the maintenance add-on was like glitched in the floor, because nothing could really tip it until I used a wedge, and then it just tipped it instantly. And all the steps on the side of it were glitching around a bit mad, so I reckon there might have been something a bit iffy with that. But either way, yeah, it wasn't flipping the maintenance trader Dolphin until it had the other Dolphin as a wedge. You see going through here, like, I think it's a combination of, like, this thing doesn't weigh a hell of a lot, so it doesn't push itself into the ground very well, and it might also be floating a bit now, which is, you know, even worse. That's sort of lifting even more of its weight off the floor. But yeah, as you can see, I mean, it just doesn't, you know, it doesn't knock your socks off. It doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really float me boat. Well, again, it's like, if it was free, I'd absolutely be like, yep, get it. But considering you've had things like the Ford F750, I would say is better than this. Goes about the same speed. It's got more options with, like, the pickup bed, the different roof racks, all the rest of it. It's got the flatbed, the crane, and then obviously you got, like, the R87, which is basically this, like, as somebody said, which I wouldn't say they're too far off, it's like a reskinned version of the R87. I do think there is certain characteristics, like it's definitely weighted more in the chassis, so it doesn't roll as easily or anything like that. But yeah, it's not, especially the fact that it's the same essential layout as the R87, and that in its own right is quite gutless, because it's, in real life, it's made to be very light. Like, I assume most of that's fiberglass or whatever. Yeah, it's a very light truck. This thing, though, they could have just made it, yeah, have a much different character than the R. You can see there where I hit the engine, 41 damage, and that wasn't even flat out. It was doing a nice bit of drifting. You see there where I hit that chunk of snow, it just absolutely stops you in your tracks, and it doesn't look right. Like, even the loaf with much smaller wheels and only, you know, normal, like, 4 lots of wheels, motors through stuff like that. Most stuff does. There is a few things that get caught up pretty badly in the snow, but yeah, I'd say this is up there as one of the worst, really, especially that they're asking real money for it. And like I say, I don't agree with asking for real money, but I'm not gonna, compared when you think of, like, Call of Duty Ghosts, I bought the season pass on that cost a good 20-25 quid more than this. By the way, just while I remember, when I looked in the PS Store, the season pass version of this game, or just the base version of this game, are on offer at the minute. Not that I'm trying to sell copies from, I'm just saying, if any of you are watching this that haven't bought the game, it is on offer at the minute, so just I thought I'd mention it, because I've not really seen it mentioned anywhere else. But yeah, compared to, like, the money-grabbing activities of a lot of games and companies I've had, you know, bought games off and so forth, this isn't definitely on the same scale, but I still think it's in the wrong direction. It's like, yeah, you've made the season pass, or at least, again, if you're going to add something for real money, make it fun. Like, I mean, look at it now after I've rolled down the hill, which I was fine doing, that's fair enough. It just doesn't, it shouldn't be going half a mile an hour with 6 wheels that are that size. Ticking along these sort of roads, though, like the dirt roads, yeah, it's, again, it's nice, it's comfortable, but it's not, yeah, it's not giving me the time of my life flying around or anything. It's just, it's quite, yeah, replaceable with, well, again, I suppose, like the R87 being one of them, but overall, really, it looks pretty cool as a pickup setup, but it is essentially like a lot of vehicles in this game that are 6-wheeled. I mean, just to compare the situation, imagine if this was like a little baby version of the Tayga. Like, how cool that'd be if it was just a pickup version of the Tayga, but it had that same level of power, the same level of, like, how planted it is in the floor, how good it claws across the terrain. And it's not like it'd affect the game in any way, because I can't have trailers, I can't carry cargo. All this thing is, really, and it says it in the description, is like a mobile repair vehicle or whatever. It's like you put the 2 roof racks on, and then you can go and refuel and repair some stuff, but you can do that with so much other stuff, you know. I mean, the F750 being one of them, but every other Scout can have roof racks. Again, the Loaf's roof rack, the Loaf's single roof rack, is as much as both of these combined. It's almost got as much fuel. See there when I jumped off though, it rolled back to its wheels. Again, it is pretty nice and weighted to the floor. Driving along here, I will say as well, I've tried out the chain tyres and the mud tyres tonight. Overall, I actually think the mud tyres are a bit better. It's not, obviously on this type of terrain, really, you want to go with chained because you just be drifting around in circles, not really getting any grip with the muds, but for near enough everything else, there's just not enough weight in the vehicle, and because that weight's being spread out over an extra set of wheels as well, yeah, it's kind of like not punching itself hard enough into the ground to where it can bite in with those chains. I mean, I'm not sure with those muds. As I said, they are like giant version of the loaf muds, and obviously quite a lot of mud tyres are different to them, but I enjoy the muds on the loaf. And yeah, after trying both out tonight, I think I'll mostly stick with the muds on this thing. Again, if I'm on this map quite a lot, maybe I'll pop the chained on. Going across this ice, particularly because it can spread its weight out and it doesn't weigh a lot, it was pretty difficult to get it to punch through the ice. Like, it was driving along the ice very well. It's just funny though, it's a bit of an odd one to release. Like, I don't know, they've already filled that niche, or well, more than just that niche. Like I say, you got the F750 that's now had the improved engine. The Warthog is faster and a lot more powerful, but it can be geared down and all the rest of it. That's also got a van body thing you can add on that has 500 repair points. If you're talking about Taz, the TUZ16, that can have the van body and a roof rack. I suppose I could also tow a trailer with the TUZ16, etc. Whereas this, just like no trailers. I could winch a Scout fuel trailer. Well, I could winch any trailer behind me. And again, that's not the end of the world. I could use that for some situations. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of other stuff I could use. Like, there's not really any gap in the market that this thing fills that nothing else can. And it's sort of a shame in a way, because, as I said, with the whole pay-to-win thing, I mean, yeah, Call of Duty, like, by comparison, they would have this game set up, or EA, where you get nothing but shit vehicles, and then you can win ridiculously overpowered vehicles in a loot box system where you might win it first time, you might win it 700th time. Like, some people have spent, you know, thousands on Call of Duty to unlock specific guns that are essentially, they're pay to win. They're the most powerful in the game. I just think with this game though, why not? Who cares? Especially while we haven't got mods at the minute. If they hurried up and got console mods put in the game. I mean, I don't know what the crack is really with as far as like the PC version goes and mods. I mean, I don't know if this is for sale to PC users, but could it be modded in the game in some way, or does it need to be? Could you just get a YAR 87 and adjust all the characteristics to make it, say, way more, you know, lower down in the chassis? I assume there must be a way of doing it within the coding, because this game has differences in trucks between like the weight being very low down and the weight being spread throughout the height of the vehicle. So I think you could achieve this by just adjusting the R87. And again, I do agree, it does look pretty cool, there's no doubt about it. I do like the look of it. I like these old looking sort of Chevy pickup things anyway, and yeah, having a 6-wheel version is pretty cool. As I said, where I used to live, they used to have an American show a couple of times a year, and it was the biggest show of the year, like at that place that I lived. And yeah, they had loads of stuff like these pickups, you know, all old. It sort of reminds me of like a Jeepers Creepers pickup, that type of old school stuff, and yeah, I like them. Always wanted to buy one like this. And I remember actually there was funny enough, it was like a loaf. I don't know if it was actually a loaf, but whatever it is, someone had put a Corvette, like an LS1 engine in it, and it was a 9-second quarter-mile loaf basically. Looked a bit like a Volkswagen camper, but it wasn't. Just a quick one, looks very nice in red. Actually, to be fair, it's got like a lot of the colours are pretty nice on it. They look a little bit extra bright and vibrant, even like all the custom colours. Again, I didn't want to put too much of like what I'd normally do in a review in this video. I just literally went out for a blast tonight, kept saving the footage as I was like testing it out myself, so they're all just random clips. But yeah, the colours are actually like pretty cool, pretty bright, pretty vibrant. Like I said, this red suits it pretty well. The yellows do, the green's not bad, the blues. I just went into flat out into that post just to show you that was like coming out the garage, flat out into that post. I think I did 97 damage to the engine, so I had 3 health left. That's as good as dead. So when you're on a road or something though, and you actually allow it to get a bit of speed up, it is quite nice, and the back end kind of steps out nicely. It does try and... it's not really understeering, but because it's got that middle axle, it does the same thing as the Yar. Once you get into a bit of oversteer, that middle axle kind of grips in, and because the total grip of the rear axles outweigh the front, it kind of flicks the nose back round, and it behaves a bit like understeer. But it's more being initiated by, yeah, that middle axle than just lack of front grip. Going along here, this is where it is a little bit sort of tricky tonight. You know, certain places, like, Jesus Christ, this thing is just gutless, and then other places you're kind of like, well, it's, you know, ticking along like pretty nicely. I mean, the amount of speed and whatever I'm clawing through here, probably apart from this bit, this is now where it just completely lets you down, because I'm not clipping the chassis or anything, and it's just like I've got 6 wheels being powered that are big chunky either chained wheels or mud wheels. Like, how would you not claw through that a bit quicker? Yeah, it just needs upping a bit to find that actual level of realism, I believe. And as I said, I don't know how the coding works with this game, but it sort of feels like there's something dragging or slowing it down. I ended up accidentally, I was just roaming around, and I sort of started a mission called Michigan Trail. So I ended up doing that. Nice little screenshot there with the American flag and the dam in the background. I mean, of course, we've got a goddamn horse with a vehicle on there somehow. It's always going to happen. Could have been banned from my lineup if it couldn't squeeze a loaf in there somehow. This is actually slowed down now, just for everyone's health. You don't want to see the full magic of the loaf. People might get hurt. But no, I mean, it balances on the roof. I tried putting it on the back, tried putting it sideways, all over the place. I haven't tried it yet with the roof rack, just putting it on top. Although the roof rack, I'll have to try it if I can empty the roof rack. It's like a giant plate just to pop a loaf on top. But yeah, I mean, we're going along pretty nicely. See, if I had a roof rack on the loaf, I'd have just as many points as I would have if I had both roof racks on this thing. See? Unobstructed views. Got my little nodding dog, got my little ace of spades. I don't know what card everyone else has been hanging up on the rear view mirror. I keep doing the ace of spades. Just doesn't feel right doing anything else. They don't sound as good as the ace of spades. Remember that song on the old Tony Hawk's game? Yeah, all things considered, the loaf was staying on pretty nicely. I did get a bit keen going down there though. And you see, like, because of the lack of weight to it, it can't even drag this loaf along the floor, which is pretty bad, all things considered. For a 6-wheeled, chunky wheeled vehicle, that was not that impressive. Flying down here, I was going for the Jeff Special, and you can see, well, it's like Jeff Special Light. It started to do it for like a little while, and then, yeah, as soon as I got even close to this mud, it just absolutely stopped. Was having none of it. So, I yeah, loaded it up, took it to... what's it called? Lake Covd. Nice little, pretty decent. One of the most uninterrupted, like, just sheets of ice going down the edge of this carved out piece of water. Yeah, I was going for the Jeff Special. Get across there. Again, turn all-wheel drive off makes it a lot easier. Stick it in the high when you're in top gear. A little drift sometimes helps the situation. It's funny though as well, when you turn the all-wheel drive off, it's just front-wheel drive. Well, I don't know if that's funny or not, but not funny like that, but I mean, I don't know, I would have probably expected it to keep both rear wheels powered and probably turn the front off. I suppose that's like what a lot of setups with the normal 6-wheeled trucks do. After I crashed there, I seen I didn't have a lot of suspension health left, so this is where I was actually now trying to break the suspension. And to be fair, yeah, consider, I mean, this thing's not rapid, but you definitely have to like build a bit of speed up and smash it along those ice blocks to actually get the suspension to go. Doesn't lower it a whole lot, really. I mean, this thing doesn't have a raised suspension in the first place, so... if I'm honest, I mean, raised suspension isn't high on the list of things it needs, because it has got that middle axle, and it does shorten the wheelbase. Yeah, like, you're a lot less likely to get beached. I mean, still ticking along pretty nicely. Managed to, I apologise, there was a little glitch there, but yeah, managed to get it back in the Jeff Special. going for a little drift, even while it's collapsed on its own suspension, so it can drive around in that state. Of course, quick little test along the cliffs. I couldn't resist. And again, I sort of, yeah, went a bit wide anyway. I did clip that rock, kind of jumped me over the edge, but flung a winch out before I went over, and we're all right. So I'd be pretty happy with that. If that happened just normally, I'd be like, yep, that'll do. Loaf trained, and we're off. But yeah, because that weight's quite low down. I mean, even there it didn't tip, but yeah, as I went off that cliff, it didn't just try and roll roof first and go flying off the cliff. See, now I'm back to muds. That's essentially what happens on the ice. Like, there's nothing I can do about that. It's just, as soon as I think a bit of the front axle either clipped one of those rocks or a little bit of the snow, and yeah, back end absolutely just flick round. So for these sort of maps, chained might be the best option, but yeah, in all honesty, even through the mud and the snow, I think the muds have definitely got the edge. I definitely do like, though, that when you drift like this, it does tend to just drift sideways rather than digging in and rolling over. Not to say it's impossible, but a hell of a lot of the time, yeah, it just drift around. So in places like this where it allows you to build the speed up, it's not too bad, but then when you get into situations like this, it's just, yeah, there's not that crazy amount of power there or weight to really bite into the terrain. And obviously from when I was messing around earlier, I towed that trailer there. I already know I wouldn't be able to, so I just cut it out because there's no point, but I can't put any cargo in the trailer, so even if I wanted to haul a 2-slot trailer up this hill, I'd have to bring another vehicle down here to actually yeah, put the concrete in the trailer. And in the end, that's just what I wouldn't do with it. But it's a bit of a shame. That's, to a degree, I mean, it's not the main reason I'd use or not use the Tatrin. However, the fact that the Tatrin can't have any trailers either is just, it's one more reason to pick something else. And yeah, especially as pretty much most people have done all the scouting by now or anything, there's not any scouting really left to do, so therefore there's not a whole lot. It's just like, if this thing's only been built for just the fun of it, so to speak, or for the sakes of just driving around the maps, then yeah, they could have at least give it the option to have a bit more power and craziness to it. I mean, like the Warthog and everything's got crazy power, but that's also got enough different options that you can use it for like actual things in the game, whereas this, I mean, long story short, I'd use the Tatrin over this if I was just going to roam around the maps. This is faster than the Tatrin on roads, slower than the Tatrin on 99% of, like, forget dirt roads, fair enough, they just say count as roads, but yeah, anything that's actually like terrain like this, it's, I'd say, slower than the Tatrin, so if I just wanted to explore around, I'd have no real reason to use the this over the Tatrin. But for variety's sake and mixing and matching, I have no doubt I will be using this more, but yeah, long term I can't see it being like a new favourite or anything, not unless they do add something to do, mainly with the power. Although I would really like the high range and off-road gearbox selection. You see then, it's places like this where you're like, well, that's a nice little bit of rallying around in the peaks of the mountain. It's doing pretty well not to roll at this point. I'm certainly abusing it and taking the piss a little bit by now, so I wouldn't have been upset or surprised if it rolled. But yeah, those muds, I mean, again, I've switched the muds, they're biting in pretty nicely. Because there's not deep snow on the peaks of the mountains, you can get away with it pretty well. Like, as I drive down here, you can see as soon as that becomes not shallow snow, it just absolutely slows you down to, you know, 5 miles an hour or something. And then you get back to the shallow snow and we're all good. It feels punchy again. Well, punchy enough anyway. Again, I don't need or want it or whatever to be like a rally car. I'd like a rally car in this game, but yeah, it'd be nice if it had felt a bit more than like a 1950s pickup, especially if that's all you're going to allow me to do with it. I mean, even going up that hill, Flew up there, absolutely no issues. Goes up there very nicely, to be honest. That's definitely what she said. So along here, back at what do you call it, Black River, cutting through this little bit. I went across this bit quite a bit in my top 10 favourite trucks and scouts. I didn't really do this bit in the review. But you see, it's going across there all nicely, but then because I hit that tree and there's just no weight to this thing, pushing it into the ground, like running over tree carcasses is, you definitely tell the difference then between a lightweight truck and a heavy truck. The lightweight ones just, I suppose, almost get lifted back off the ground by the tree carcass pushing back, and it doesn't end well really for the truck. So I mean, like I say, I'll do a proper review maybe tomorrow, to be honest, because I've certainly drove this thing around a lot tonight. I've still got plenty to be said on it, plenty of footage to be made on it. As it's just released and it's pretty relevant, it's probably worth getting it out sooner rather than later. Yeah, if I'm honest though, for now, I'd save you money, really, unless you're keen on it. If £3.29 or whatever is just, you know, you're going to spend it on something else anyway, then sod it, just get it. But if not, I would wait a little bit, see if they just tweak the engine or something, because if they're asking, that money, it's like, I think you need to get something that feels like it was definitely worth the purchase at the end of it. But anyway though, that's about it for today. I hope that helps. I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.